Episode 213, we are going to be sharing the survival playbook for real estate agents, right? Because we're losing a lot of agents. 49% of agents last year sold 0 or 1 home. So this is the survival playbook for you guys. We're going to get started right freaking now. All right, welcome back. Episode 213 of the only real estate podcast worth listening to. This is the survival playbook for real estate agents. Look, the reason why we're doing this is that in 2023, there was 49% of all licensed realtors sold 0 or 1 home.
Realtors. So you're trying to draw us off sides there?
What do you mean? Did I say it right? Did I say decent?
Jesse, what do you think?
Tours.
Well, that was pretty close.
I mean, I'm practicing.
When you say it really fast, it could go either way.
Realtors.
Realtors.
See, he puts the L before the A.
Yeah, I don't think he said it right.
Puts the L before the A every time.
Well, look, I've been licensed for 20 years. So back then, that's how we said it. So, all right, before we start the show, we got to thank our sponsors really, really quick. And I'm going to go really, really fast so that you stay on this because this is their survival playbook. And you're probably worrying about where you're getting your next deal from.
You just need to survive. You're running out of time.
Yeah.
So we got to go fast.
Yeah, exactly. Probably running out of that cash reserves. So today's show is brought to you by Mortgage Mike, giving you that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. He's giving loans left and right in Texas and in Oklahoma. So just go to mmgloans.com. That's Mortgage Mike Group. So mmgloans.com. And make sure that you send all your best clients to him, and he'll take care of them, make you look really, really good for them, and give you the best rates. So mmgloans.com. And then are we going to throw up that image? Do we have that image for?
Oh, shoot.
No.
Man, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll do it.
All right. You start talking. He'll do it on the fly.
Yeah.
So we've got our amazing sponsor, the Ron Smith with Armadillo Home Warranty, giving you that hard shell protection. And we're probably not going to be able to throw that image up right now. So we'll do it later on the show.
Control Shift 4.
Yeah.
Screenshot it.
All you need to do is if you're looking for an amazing home warranty, one of the best home warranty companies out there, it's Armadillo. Just go to armadillo.one/tour, TORE. And just tell them that the guys at the Only Real Estate Podcast Worth Listening To sent you. And then, look, buying rental properties. I just got a call from, Brandy Dosser. Well, Brandy Guam. I don't know what she goes by over there.
Professionally, it's Brandy Dosser.
Yes, yeah. Professionally. But, not professionally. It's Brandy Guam.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was calling me about some awesome new product, especially if you're for real estate agents, but also if you're an investor, something very, very cool out there. So if you're looking at wanting to buy rental properties, right? Or maybe you already have some, or you're working with some clients, their house is not selling, they're talking about renting it out. You need to get them over to Dana Wynn at homewarddfw.com, the best property management company in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Absolutely. And then when you're ready to look as gorgeous as we are, I didn't dab my face today. Check out Tore Studios, TORE studios.com for all your content creation needs. We're building quite the portfolio of clients, which is super cool. Every day, Jesse's like, so-and-so's coming in, so-and-so, and so-and-so. It's like cool people.
Yeah. By the way, this image that I didn't know that was actually on Theron's Instagram page. I thought one of them.
I thought one of y'all just found it.
Yeah.
No,
that is
hysterical. Was definitely on his.
Oh, then that's not as cool.
That's really funny, though.
Yeah. So
we'll do it next week.
That's AI right there, baby.
If we can pull it.
Definitely AI.
We'll just throw it up random.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be.
Oh, that is AI.
Yeah.
Oh,
you can tell. It
Wonder
looks too clean.
I wonder what he prompted for that. Anyway.
It's a good question.
So let's break down to this survival guide, right? Because look, I mean, I'm going to say it again, 49% of agents last year sold 0 or 1 house. So we're not getting rich. Right? They're definitely not.
Don not getting rich. Now, okay, so is Facebook user tobacco today? Because I usually think it's Theron.
It's not Theron.
No, because Theron is Theron today.
Oh, you said what image? I'm concerned. I don't know who that is.
Nah, whatever.
Yeah,
we're in a wind tunnel right
now. They can't hear it on there. So.
No idea. Okay.
Yes, 49% did not sell a home in 2023. I don't know what that number normally is, the number of agents that don't sell a home per
I'm
year.
assuming
but
that if
seems
they're
very high.
I'm assuming that they're really promoting this number, that it's probably normally not this high.
I would imagine.
Right.
Half of anybody who do anything not doing something is a concerning number.
It seems like very high. Yes, right.
Yeah.
If you're saying like any other profession, can you imagine if like half of pilots were just like, we didn't even fly at all last year? I'd be so scared to get
It'd
on
be
a
like
plane.
the only place where you'd ever experience this, because I experienced it yesterday, is like going to the barber shop. Like half of the people in there are just committed to, like, they don't care. I listened to the phone ring 13 times. And then the voicemail came on and said memory full. And I was like, no shit.
Yeah. What are you calling the barbershop for anyway?
I don't even
What kind of
know.
questions could you
Just
have?
show
You
up
know
with-
what we do here.
Show up and wait.
Exactly. And so there's a new report by the Consumer Federation of America, the CFA, just released a new report revealing, in their words, a critical issue in the real estate industry right now is that there's a significant surplus of agents with over 1.5 million selling just 5 to 6 million homes annually.
There's 1.5 million real estate agents right now.
Yep. And so this glut
Good
leads to most
grief.
agents being unable to sustain themselves solely on sales commissions, contributing to widespread incompetence and pressure to maintain high commission rates.
Incompetence. Didn't even like use a different word. They were just
Incompetence came out right out with it.
right out.
I think it's really interesting that, like, what is that? The Consumer Federation of America. It
Yep,
took like
the CFA.
it took an official like governing body or an important body to realize that all you got to do is work in real estate for a year to realize there's way too many agents. It doesn't take a lot, and the barometer of skill level is pretty low.
But hasn't it always felt like, again, we've been doing this all a long time, and it's always felt like there's been, not 1.5, but it's still a
Too many.
lot, right? It's always been, you talk to somebody new, and their favorite first, second, third cousin just got licensed, and because it seemed like easy money, they were going to go with them, and then they hated the experience because that person didn't know anything and didn't help them, and they found it on their own and whatever, right? And so that's always been the case. It seems like, and I don't think that's changing, and
It won't, because when we go into our next bull run, that'll be when everybody jumps back in and gets licensed again, right? Like, these things they lag the market. So when the market starts to go bad, we have way too many agents, and then a bunch get out, and then the market starts to get good again.
Let me ask you this though. So when that happens, right? Normally when that happens, we also have we've got enough time frame to have a good amount of agents exit, right? Do we believe, because I think there's going to be in 24, I think there's going to be a little run up where it's going to hang on to these 1.5 million, maybe get some other people in, and so we're not going to see as many that need to exit in order to kind of clear out this space.
So like you're talking about like these micro cycles that you've been talking about for a while, right?
Yeah.
Where like with the velocity of technology and everything else nowadays, like economic cycles don't last 10 years anymore. They last like 2 years.
Sure.
So like there's not enough time for people to get back out and then get back in, or new people to get back in. So I think it's an interesting way to look at it.
And I think there's always going to be an influx of people, because you're selling this entrepreneurial dream, right? Nobody knows whether they're going to be good at it. Are you going to be one out of the 10 who is actually good at this, right? And makes real money and does all the stuff that you see on TV? Or are you going to be one of the like 84% who wash out in 24 months? Well, when you sign up for champions, you don't know yet, right? So everybody is amped. Everybody's excited, right? And so like you're always going to have more people coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, because the barriers to entry are so low, and that's like a whole other
I'm
conversation.
okay with that though.
Yeah.
Which part?
The barrier to entry being low.
Are you?
Yeah, because here's the thing is, like, what do you propose to make it harder? Like, candidly, here's the thing is, I actually think real estate is such an boots on the ground, real life getting kicked in your freaking face real estate, like that it is like nothing I learned in real estate school is even remotely relevant.
So maybe that's it. Maybe it's not like the barrier to entry is high. Maybe it's that like real estate school needs to actually teach you a lot more.
It could. I just don't know. I don't know how it could. We already have so much call reluctance day to day with agents whose livelihood already depend on this, whose legit children aren't eating because of this. How are you going to get some some person who's in a class that they haven't even passed yet to really learn the real life of this.
Where my thought goes is not necessarily even the business building side, because there's really, you just got to experience that.
You do have to experience that.
Like, take for example, we do contract law and classes and stuff like that, but we don't talk anything about deal structure.
No, for
You know what I mean? Like, you know how to read 10 pages of contract and you barely even know that, but you don't actually know what any of it means.
How do you
Or
know
like,
how to
does-
advise a client in January and December of 21 when the market's absurd and inspections are gone and everybody's 50,000 over a list and you've got your ass kicked on 6 deals in a row, right? Like, there's just no way to understand that without doing it. I do think like certain things like P&L type things, those are the things that I think take agents out, that people aren't really great at, that we could teach that we don't.
Dang, it's almost like you were reading where we're headed with this, Kelderman.
Did we plan this show today?
Yeah. So
First time in a while.
this is last week was planned too.
That's true.
Yeah. So
Or
this
at
is
least do
a
the title.
this is a 10-step kind of survival guide to hopefully making sure that you're not the one that exits the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And the first of the 10 tips is know your numbers, right? And it talks about in here, this is an Inman article that was published, and it says this person had interviewed numerous amount of agents in the past few years, and they've been amazed by how many do not know the fundamental numbers for their business. While many simply do not know, they assume that if they have enough money in the bank, they're profitable. Some even consider the lack of data to be something of which to be proud, stating, "We're not really into keeping track of our numbers like that. We just go with what comes down the pipe."
That's not admitting that you're getting your teeth kicked in.
What kind of
That
redneck shit is that?
No, that's just fake. That is fake bravado at its finest, and I can tell you that's true because I do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like that is the I don't care about my numbers because I got so much business is the most idiotic way to run your business. It's hilarious.
Well,
It's because it's not running.
it's not running a business at all.
as I moved more into the recruiting role for the team, and started reaching out to agents and asking them how's business, and usually when I'm asking how business is, I already know your numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm
You ain't
looking
selling that much new construction, baby.
Yeah. I'm looking to see how their response is, and I'm going to say pretty much nothing's over 100%, but 99% of the time they say business is amazing. It's great. It's going better than they thought. They're so busy. And then when I really look at it, they're really, most of them part of the 49% that's done 0 or 1, or they've done less than 5 in the last 12 months. And maybe that's busy for them. And I always have to clarify and see, all right, what are your expectations? And usually their expectations are they want to make at least 6 figures.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you're not making that. So they don't know their numbers, and where they're burying their heads in the sand.
Yep.
And they're not keeping track of what their P&Ls are, or what their cash burn rate is, and how long they have left in this industry before they have to go look for something else.
Isn't it crazy that we can't keep a P&L, but we can sure as shit tell you when we got 90 days worth of bills left in our bank account? Like, real estate agents are amazing at this, of being like, I don't really know how much I spend, but I can tell you exactly how long I've got until I'm broke. Like, how in the world can we do that math, but we can't do the other math that would prevent us from being in that situation?
Because they're bumping up against that wall all the time. So what do you think if you're going to invite, let's just individual agents, so you own your own business, right? Like, what are the most important numbers that you would need to know, like the back of your hand?
So number one, this is from their list, and then I want you all to jump in, right? So how many units did you sell? If you're brand new, you don't have that, right? So this is going to be for experience. So if you're brand new, you're going to say, not applicable at this time. When did you sell them? Again, new, not applicable. What was your cost per unit?
Yeah.
Right. What were your expenses last month and then last year? And then how many sales do you need each month to even break even?
Yep.
And then are monthly and yearly financial reports being generated for your business? I'm going to tell you that 99% don't. And do you know how to read your financials?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going to raise my hand here. For the longest time, I did not know how to read my financials.
In what regard?
Like, I just look at all those numbers and I'm like, I don't really know how to, I just knew, all right, it cost me X amount a month to run my operation. As long as that number stayed relatively the same, I knew what the break even number was.
Sure.
But I didn't know how to read that. That took some time learning. And I was a little embarrassed by that.
Yeah.
Right. Because, it's not like we go to, how to read a P&L statement class. No one's really taught that. I think I've seen it maybe once in our industry.
Yeah.
But it's
Most
not.
people don't even have a personal budget. They're sure as shit not going to put a P&L together for their business.
And there's multiple perspectives on it as well.
Yeah.
So people don't change it. A lot of times people don't teach it because there's varying opinions on the proper way to read your P&L.
Is there?
Well, just on when you're talking about real estate is very difficult when you're talking about calculating your ROI on certain expenses and things like that, right? So you can have a lot of different prisms through which to look at stuff. Like what you think is a mandatory expense, when you try to track that to actual dollars in the door, it's not always a cut and dry thing. So it's kind of it's hard to teach those things, but that's why it's so important to look at them so regularly, because that's where you just get the look and feel of your own business.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like certain expenses you'll have for long enough to know that it should have moved the needle one way or another. Somebody coming right into your business and looking at your P&L day one, they would not have that familiarity. You know what I mean? So that's why it's so important to regularly visit your numbers. It's you get the feel for your own business.
I will say, I always had a P&L generated monthly, right? I always had that. I was the type that didn't want to look at it. Even if we had a great month, I just never wanted to look at it.
Yeah.
Right. Cause I'm like, all right, we made money. But ever since joining, when we partnered with the platform Place, I have to look at those at a much higher level and just keep track and see where our percentages, the cost of sale and everything else. So it's made me look at it through the business owner lens. And even though I had all that, it's been something that has helped me grow on that. And it does it's a skill set that it's not, for me, it wasn't easy, but it once you got it, now it's like clockwork. Like I can look at it really, really fast. I know what my percentages are. I know that I'm high on something, but as long as I'm okay with that, and if I wanted to increase my profitability, I know that it's either cutting there or cutting from somewhere else. And then where our ROI comes from, maybe we're spending money on something that doesn't generate it, but it makes us feel good, or we think it's going to. Yeah. And so, there's a lot of those items in there.
100%. And so, actionable stuff. First thing to do, I think people just get really intimidated by this. You know how easy it is to generate a P&L? You probably have one operating account. If you don't for your business, please don't use your personal bank account. If you're using your personal bank account as real estate agents, please stop that today. It's almost 5:00. Go open a new bank account before then. Hook that shit up to QuickBooks and just automate it. You'll have to go in and itemize things a few times, and over time you'll just make a rule that says this is always this. Your P&L as an individual agent or a small team owner should be almost automatic. It's you reading it and doing something about it every month, but just there's so much automated software out there to create a P&L. Please don't go one more month into 2024 without hooking that stuff up and at least knowing what you're spending every month and how much money you're making and where that money is getting spent.
The other thing that I just want to say about number one was that you skipped over kind of the second question there kind of quickly, is knowing when you're selling during the year, right? Like, again, as a new agent, you don't have that, but as a seasoned agent, you can see those patterns. If you're a new agent, just assume 20% of your business is going to come in Q1, 30% is going to come in Q2 and Q3, 20% is going to come in Q4. Now, that sounds awesome in Q1 when you're like, oh, I only have to do 20% of my production this month. If you don't do it, it rolls over to Q2. Yeah. Okay. So, but if you just want that deal breakdown, also just to give yourself the mental understanding of there are going to be ebbs and flows to the year. If your goal is 20 deals a year, don't do 5, 5, 5, and 5. Break it down and find the real numbers that is realistic for your business. That'll help you stay on track too.
And then you got to figure out, it says what? How many units you sell. And so if you're looking towards the future, it's, how many units do you want to sell? Okay. So how much money do you want to make?
Yep.
Back that out into units you need to sell. And it's going to be harder if you're new, but if you're new, you just need to be really conservative about it. How many appointments do you need to go on to sell that many? And so if you're brand new, you want to be at no more than a 50% conversion rate on appointments. You might even want to be at 30% because you're brand new. And then be very realistic with yourself. An appointment is not some slick shit you said to get in the door. It's not some FSBO preview. An appointment is only, I am agreeing to sit and meet with you in person or via Zoom or whatever and talk about you potentially representing me in a real estate transaction. If that is not happening, it's not an appointment. So anywhere from 30 to 50% on those for a brand new agent. If you've been experienced, hopefully you knock that up to you closing 75% or so. And then you need to look at your hard costs. So you have a CRM, the things that are going to cost you money every month, and then know how many do I have to sell just to cover my hard costs? And then how much more money do I need to spend to actually talk to that many people. So am I doing marketing? Am I calling expire, right? Like add that up and then you'll know I need to sell at least 2 houses a month to break even. I need to sell 4 houses a month to actually hit my goal.
No, you know what we need to do? A tour webinar. Because I'm going to tell you that Brian is one of the best people when it comes to analyzing a P&L.
My life is financially different because of the dude who sits to my
Yeah,
right. There's absolutely no doubt that his ability to teach a grown man how to actually manage his money is supreme to
I think a tour webinar, Jesse. Let's get this.
Fun.
Yeah,
it would be. I'm down.
I'm down.
Yep, on building a P&L, the beginners.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean that would help. Give back to the real estate agents. Maybe find a way to make it somehow lucrative for us because look, we got to make money on this show now.
Yeah.
Like we got to start stepping
It's
this
2024. We don't want to
Yeah.
be out of this business either.
Exactly. We don't want to be part of that 49%.
Exactly.
We want to sell something to you.
Exactly.
Number 2 is slashing expenses, but not the tour webinar.
keep those
expenses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just keep that.
Yeah. Number 2 is slashing expenses. So any business that has more going out than coming in, obviously you're not going to be in business very long.
Yeah.
So you need to sit down and identify every dollar spent and then categorize it. It's a 1 through 3 category. So category 1 is you cannot cut under any circumstances. Number 2 is it's nice to have, but we could cut it if necessary.
Yep.
And number 3 is fluff that makes you ask, what is this? Why did I get rid of this ages ago?
There's always stuff in the stuff too, because some of the things that you buy in real estate are based on how many people you have in it.
Yep.
I just experienced this with HomeBot. Amazing product. Think it's awesome. People will respond to it. We don't have an affiliation. We should though. But I had so many people uploaded in there. I didn't realize the cost of how much of it went up. So I went in and was like, how much of this are just random people that I have no attention to? I just happen to have their address, their name, and their email address.
Yep.
I bet I cut that thing down by 50% with the loosest of criteria.
Yep.
Right. And so there's costs within these costs too of some of these systems.
It is. And that's actually really, so that you're like getting meta now. This is what I love. Because one of the first things you do, been through it in late 2022 all the way through 2023. It's amazing how, like, no matter how dialed in you are, how fat your P&L can get when the money's just flowing in. And then how you have to start taking a real hard look at things. You talk about that 3-month window. When all of a sudden your business feel like it's on a 3-month window, you look at your P&L and you're like, nothing matters.
Yeah.
You're cutting everything. You don't care, right? Subscription-based softwares are a good one. MailChimp, things like that specifically. One of the things that we like to do, especially with our mail, our email marketing and stuff, is like we just love having that big number in there. But if you are doing an audit and you go and you look at your metrics and you look at like 85% of people haven't opened an email from me in over a year, you're probably spending way more on that software than you need to. It might feel good to have 70,000 people in MailChimp, but I guarantee you it's like a tenth of the price to have 500. Take the ones that are actually opening your shit, and so that's a good point because you can extrapolate that to everything. And if we're talking about building a P&L, then until you really build that out and get familiar with it, it's hard to know some of the things you need to cut. But I guarantee you, one of the biggest reasons that we're seeing a potential agent tsunami is that. Oh, that was a different suggestion.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was
agent
the longer
tsunami
description.
is not the business expenses, guys. We all know agents that's made money and spent money. Like, for some reason, we don't learn. Whenever we are in an up market, we forget that there are down markets. We just think it's gonna never
The down markets are so bad that the up markets feel like the dessert, and so we're just gonna eat that shit, bro.
It's so true.
Like it's never the music's never stopped.
Never.
Right?
So like this is worth focusing on for just a moment longer, is the going back to like the 3 little rules. Do this. I started telling Matt to do this a long time ago, and I love sharing this exercise. Your personal expenses are what's going to keep you in this business or get you out of this business as well. Before you even have a P&L, print out your credit card statements every single month. And then what I used to do and still do sometimes is just, you're going to highlight basically 2 things. Stuff that you don't even remember what it was. Okay. And then stuff that you do know what it was, but it wasn't a necessity. Like it wasn't bills or anything like that. Okay. Highlight those in different colors. And then you go through and you're going to add up both of those columns. Okay. So you're going to have one column of stuff that you don't even know what it is. Right. And then you're going to have the other column of stuff that you do know what it is, but it isn't necessary. And let me backtrack. Not that you don't know what it is, that you don't remember it. Meaning like it's Whataburger, but I don't remember when I went. I just went, but I don't really remember. So you have a whole column of stuff that you don't actually remember spending that money, and a whole column of stuff that you do, but it isn't part of your budget. It isn't necessary. And then you just look at all the stuff that you do remember but wasn't necessary, and you just ask yourself a very simple question. If you didn't spend that money, would you be happier today? Or would you be any less happy today? And you'll find 99% of the time, you would not be any less happy today. And so then you add those numbers together, and you will find how much money you are spending on shit that you don't even remember spending or that didn't make you any inherently happier. And I promise you, if you do that over the course of a year, one thing would organically happen is either you would very quickly see how much money you're spending that you don't need to. And two, you would, if you didn't do something about it, you'd be crazy. But organically, you just start to think about things in a whole new light. I had an experience with this very recently. So I had to do a personal financial statement for one of our lenders today. I don't know if you got that email as well, but I had to do an updated personal financial statement for.
I feel like I'm always sending those.
Yeah, I had to do one this week for a lender on a deal of ours, and so I had to go do that exercise. And that was the first time that I had realized that on paper, and only on paper, I had hit a certain benchmark that I wanted to hit in my life before the age of 40 on paper. One that many entrepreneurs, sort of aspire to, whatever. And one, not all it's cracked out to be. You don't feel any different. Two, like, we can all admit 2023, I don't think was anybody in this room's best financial year, like, at all. Right. And I think the reason I'm saying that is, like, you guys see me in that room with my fucking lunchbox every day. My wife and I share a car. That's probably a little extreme. She probably needs her own. But, like, I've worn this shirt every other week on the podcast for 8 years. Like, I am almost as cheap as Nick Good is, but I'm so happy. And people just spend money. Brian's not a billionaire, but he does have the ideas. People just spend money. Like, there are so many people in this industry that have made so much money that it's just gone now. So I just wanted to, like, dwell on that for just a moment, because, man, that
could be a whole. I had to just speed Brian up, by the way, because that could be a whole show.
Yeah,
because we got 10 of these, Brian.
I know.
We're about to go on number 3.
I just want you to have that takeaway.
Yeah, survival guide, manage your own leads. Right. So this is something that we've all said it. This is why Brian built something so massive and successful. That's why we're not part of the 49%. It's been said many times that we're not in the home selling business. We're in the lead generation business. That's huge, right? And it's, it's not always the best real estate agent that wins. It's the best marketer. And so, lead generation needs to be a major priority. And ideally you should have about, 3 legs minimum to your lead generation to provide a stable platform. I always think 3 legs doesn't make it stable, because if one leg goes out, then
three seems weird,
little wobbly there. So whether you choose open houses, door knocking, cold calling, paper lead sources, internet referral sites, and so on, getting a lead is useless unless you know how to effectively manage it to a closed transaction, right? We got to up our sales ability and understand the formula and how to move them along the cycles to get them to say, you know what, Brian, you're right. It is time to buy a house. Mortgage Mike, mmgloans.com. He's the best one to go to. So I'm going to get you set up and I'm ready to go.
And when you have 3 minimum, right? And I would also add, like, 3 that you have a legitimate plan around. I can't tell you how many coaching appointments I've sat in with agents, and, like, one of their 3 was like networking, and I'm like, okay, what is your plan? They're like,
no, I'm just gonna network.
Networking,
bro. I'm good at talking.
Right?
I'm a great people
They
person.
told me if I go to Bold and hand out 100 cards, I will get business.
Like, 3 only count if they're 3 really planned out, actionable routes that you can have activities behind that are trackable every single day.
Here's what I will say around the leads thing is I think, one, as a new agent, if you struggle to figure out what those things are, that's totally reasonable. Yeah. Right. I struggled for the longest time trying to figure out what I was even good at. Right. And it has changed over time. There was a time when agent referrals was a part of my business, right? A huge part of it is now it's not so much. So it also morphs a little bit. The biggest thing with leads is respect the follow-up part of it. I know as an entrepreneur, the acquisition of the lead, the hunt and kill part of it is like really attractive. there is so much of this is in what you do after that, man. But getting a yes or somebody to be nice to you can just be a product of them being a nice person and not wanting to like dump on your Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
So much of this comes in when you talk about managing leads, comes in what you do with them after they come into your world.
Yep.
Because they have to be ready for you.
It's not even
ready for
managing leads. It talks about building a database, right?
Yes.
So like Brian,
and that's
talked
what
about,
that is.
Brian talked about, and by the way, email marketing should not be as expensive as it is.
It is crazy.
Yeah. But like, building your database, like, again, you have 70,000 people in a MailChimp that's costing you a ton, and only 85% are not opening it, and they haven't opened it in over a year. That's, you probably need to change a message or figure out what's happening there. But number one is start building a database and effectively working it. And the biggest thing is people start collecting their names, right? They know they should build out their database, and they're going to put it either in their phone or in a notepad or an Excel file. And then they're like, all right, I did that. And I'm like, my company, the brokerage I'm with has a CRM. I'm going to upload it in it. But then what?
Yeah.
Right. And the problem is like no one is truly loving on their database the right way. What are they probably doing? If they're doing anything at all, they're probably putting
panic spamming when they realize they haven't talked to them forever,
or adding them to some type of
Right,
or adding them to some boring drip campaign.
Yeah.
Which I see lenders.
Hoping that'll just do it for you.
By the way, Mortgage Mike doesn't do this because I know I would jump his ass if he did. Is like, how many times have you opened up your email and let's say it's a holiday or holidays coming up and you see the same title and the same subject and it's all from lenders. And I'm like, all right, definitely wouldn't you use?
You just sent the templated thing that you're.
I can see which CRM system that you guys are using.
Yep.
And there's no value here being. And look, if you're any lead that is probably registered through an online database sort, then more than likely you're in someone else's email.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about this on our team meeting the other day that it was 58% of all buyers last year, owned a property and moved up or something like that. And which meant that they were in somebody else's database, either they're ours or somebody else's. Right. So they're either getting some type of generic, just crappy email marketing, or they're not getting anything at all because they've just never turned it on.
Yeah.
And you're not following up. You're not sending handwritten notes or whatever that may be.
Right.
Right.
Well, because you'll use what Nick just said as an excuse to not do anything at all. Well, I don't want to be generic, so I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Which is just as ineffective, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather hit people at 50% of something than nothing at all.
And you can make it way easy for yourself. You pull it out. One of the other things there was like take notes. What was the wording on this? Keep notes of every like. This one is one of the easiest ones to overlook because it's so boring. Like your CRM, man, when I was only producing, like my notes were serial killer level. Because that's, if you want to reduce the amount of touches to conversion, have better conversations.
Yeah.
And when you don't take good notes, you're starting from scratch pretty much every time. All it takes to convert a lead is that one little thing that you remember about them in their last conversation.
Or their dog, maybe they said their dog's name.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that.
Yes.
And it's dog's names. It's stuff
it's
like that.
I want to go. I had a principal when I was teaching one year, and he had talked to me once or twice. Oh, I know. He had talked to me once or twice, and he came in one day and he started asking me all these questions about my wife, my family, specifically about things that we had talked about a year before. And I asked him, I was like, how do you remember that stuff? And he's just like, honestly, I've got a book. I've got a black book that I specifically write. When I get done with a conversation with somebody, I go and I sit down and I meticulously write down what we talked about.
Yep.
I write down their wife's name or their spouse's name, their kids' names, their dogs' names. Did they go to was there some event that happened specifically, like a hospital event or
that's the stuff what Jesse's describing is like those moments that call them back to knowing they talked to you.
Exactly.
Because that's really what you're doing, right? Like you're just reminding them that, hey, I'm not Jeff from Jeff's Realty, right? Like I'm a person you've talked to before. Remember, you told me your daughter was graduating in May, and that's why you want to sell your house.
Exactly.
Right? Like also, you know what I mean? Like that part of it, that's the part that I think is so powerful in that.
Yeah, for sure.
By the way, it talks about building your database. You'll want about 200 contacts minimum. And you want to keep adding that because you're naturally there's going to be attrition.
Full contacts.
Full contacts like email, phone number.
You got
like,
name, email, address. They should never leave your database, no matter what, unless they specifically request it.
Right, and so, and then you can categorize them, in terms of the levels of what was your A's are the ones that have either referred a ton of business to you or done a lot of business with you. So you can categorize them any way you want. I never did that at a high level because I worked, mine was expired. So mine was more, mine was going after new expireds, the first thing, and then my follow-ups. And then I made it a game of how many times I could call you till you said yes to me.
Yeah.
And so ultimately on that, and then with my sphere and talking about keeping notes, by the way, we all have cell phones. Most of us do. And so if you've got an Android or Apple, in the contact section, it has notes. You can easily just type today's date, what that conversation was, and then you can upload it into your CRM later, or you can always just go back and look at it that way.
Makes perfect
Text it to your spouse. That's what I do. I say, hey, ignore this text message I'm about to send you. I just need this in my area.
I'm going to challenge one on here because we're skipping ahead and we're not even halfway through. Okay, so the number 4 was establish effective daily habits, and I'm going to just challenge number 1 right away. Number 1 is map out a weekly productivity calendar. Stop that shit. No, you have a goal that you have to set a certain amount of appointments a week, and you need to block off time to only do that, and that's your job. So like your weekly productivity calendar, it should pretty much look the same every single day. It's just, for us, it's 9 to 12. 9 to 12 is generating new business every single day. After that, it's following up with the people that you have tasks to follow up with. Like, stop making we have this perversion to making calendars and mapping up our week.
Color coding those babies.
How many times have you sat down with an agent for a coaching conversation or whatever, and their calendar looks totally different than it did last week? And it's like, what the
it doesn't account for anything too, right? Like, it's like there's just no gaps in your calendar. Like, you're just the most productive.
Yes, you're just every second of your day is accounted for. Stop.
Here's what I know about you are either the type of person who was already a calendar person and didn't need that, or you're the type of person who needs that and you're not a calendar person. So why are you even bothering?
It's irrelevant.
Right? Like, it's a piece of advice that just falls flat for me every time.
My problem with my calendar is I start stacking things too close to each other, and then they run long, and then I'm watching the clock where I forget about the other. And
oh, we know.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I'm going to be late. Like that's the natural thing on this.
Just focus on lead generation for 3 hours a day, and I promise you the rest of your calendar will probably fill up.
Practically, you'll train bad habits if your calendar is constantly going off and you're ignoring it, because we all know that's what's going to happen. You're going to set this ideal calendar. It's going to have your drive time and everything in it, and eventually you're just going to kind of become numb to the noise of your damn phone. And you're not gonna do it.
Which is why we deleted on Tuesdays. We had our podcast review day. And we never did it.
I will tell you, for all the stuff we do, we are diligent about like not having wasted time.
Yes.
We really do toss out things that we're just not going to commit to. We don't sit there and agonize over the fact that we should be better people and commit to this time. We're like, you know what? This is not effective for where we all are in our lives right now. Get this the hell out of there.
Yeah. Turns out we still do a relatively good show.
Fine. Inman says it's top 20 something.
So I like the rest of it. Budget least 2 hours a day for prospecting. 3 hours is better. These are good, right? Like, and then this is one that just, if we're talking about the agent tsunami, I know a lot of agents that have never really done open houses, and I'm glad are getting into it or getting back into it, right? Like, talk about just free people walking up to talk to you. Like, oh, I don't like working weekends. Not why I got into this business. Well,
I'll give you a get a jail free pass if you got a nice little business. If you're going to work Saturday and Sunday, take off Thursday. Like, stop. Like, I'm not saying work 7 days a week. Be a grown up and readjust your schedule.
By the way, a lot of these people that leave the industry, guess what they're applying for? Something in the real estate industry. They're like new home sales reps. They work weekends.
Literally had an agent text me the other day who was very capable about going into new home building because that's where they thought they should go because this market was kind of hard. I was like, what do you think's happening over there?
Yeah, that's easier.
Like, and open houses, that's on our goal, our goal for the team to increase. And Ashley Browning shared, I mean, she crushes open house, just put a great size contract under. Guess what? It came from an open house.
There you go.
And it wasn't very long to materialize. Like, if that's your main lead gen focus,
who's going to waste time going to open houses when they're not in the market? Like, it's a very small percentage of people who are like, you know what I'm going to do my Saturday? Walk through other people's houses. You're usually pretty damn close to decision-making time.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. By the way, number 5 of this is the survival guide, so that you're not part of the 49% that did 0 to 1 closings like in 2023. Brush up on fundamentals, right? So we've talked about this. Become a skillionaire, and if your last training happened 5 years ago, or if you're brand new and you're kind of half-assing your way through training, because let's be real. We didn't get into this to really go back to school.
I'm trying to watch the video before I start my first shift.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Oh, remember those?
God. Like, because a lot of the training and most of the training is now learn at your own pace. So you're like, I'm going to do it later, and I'm going to do it in bed, and then you start to fall asleep.
Never.
And you kind of fast forward, you skip over it, you don't take good notes, and so really it's talking about the market today is light years removed from just what happened over since 2020, since the COVID era, and we're still seeing a lot of these agents that are COVID babies in terms of their license numbers, and they've never experienced this. They don't know what's going on. They want to go back into the corporate world, and because it seems like it's easier for them.
Yes.
And it talks about in this notes that scripts will also need to change, this year as the lawsuits are forcing us to change our dialogue.
Yeah. And so I hosted a agent mastermind a couple months ago.
Oh, thanks for the invite.
I think I did invite you, actually.
I must be part of the 85% that doesn't open the email.
Yeah, you definitely are. I've seen that.
But it was like eye-opening to me how many agents, like long-term career agents, we're just talking about kind of basic, like changes in financing and lending and buy down, all sorts of the stuff that we're doing right now. And just kind of the faculty of that they had around the ability to explain these things the way that you're able to explain just a normal neutral market, 5% down loan, or, it was night and day. A lot of people sounded very much like they're struggling to really articulate a lot of those things. And so brushing up on fundamentals is like having the ability to guide and help clients and have strong conversations in the market environment that you're in. And the way that I've always felt is the best way to brush up on your fundamentals is, one, to regularly be in cadence with your vendors, because those are very, very important as far as how you serve your clients. And then 2, build yourself a normal, call it educational cadence that gives you the ability to just have some sort of educated conversation with a client about the market at any time. We used to do Market Mondays with the team, and I would have the same statistics that I'd pull every week, and it would talk about year-over-year trajectory and month-over-month trajectory. And it wasn't the most impressive thing or most nuanced. It also wasn't the most hard to understand, but if you left that call and you're paying attention, you could go and sit at an appointment and say something intelligent about where we're headed and where we've been. And you didn't need to be a genius. It was just little sound bites. And the barometer for showing someone you're an expert is relatively low. It's one soundbite worth of good information. So give yourself a weekly, everybody's got the MLS, give yourself a weekly stats pull down where you see this year opposed to last year, or this month opposed to last month, and just some key categories: price per square foot, average sales price, inventory. And I guarantee you're organically going to find yourself saying things that you're like, oh shit, I know that. Yep. It doesn't take much.
Matt, do you remember on our sales call, one thing I talked about was when this was going over inventory, and then even we went over the 2023 buyer and seller kind of profile. And I said, guys, when you're talking to buyers and sellers, number one thing that we're fighting right now is the perception of this market. And that's media based. That's everyone talking to each other. But we thrive on negativity, right? So we're fighting against and walking uphill both ways to make sure that we're educating the consumer the right way. I said, take those reports and record, use Loom, LOOM.com, do a screen record and just explain it in a really brief clip for buyers and sellers, have it saved and ready to fire off so that when you're done talking to somebody, you just text it to them. Be like, what, I actually just made something just to address this. Can I send it to you? Just because, the numbers don't lie, right? We hear things that we don't know what the truth is, but let's look at the data points, because a lot of things that we hear is like, oh, we're waiting for the market to crash. Market didn't crash. Prices went up, right? But we're also saying, but there's also room to negotiate, but that window of opportunity is really getting smaller. Let me show you why. Record it, send it off. That way you have it ready to go. and be like, oh, Brian, I understand your concern. Actually, I just made a great video. Is this a number, that goes over all the statistics on this? Is this the best number to text you on?
Dude, there's going to be a thing at the end of this list that is going to be relevant to that, the last point. But
good, because I haven't read that part.
Move on just by saying, like, the amount of stuff that you can front load in this business to give yourself an advantage with video and stuff like that, man, slow down to speed up a little bit. Think deeply about those things, whether it's freaking birthday videos or Loom videos about the market. Like, give yourself the ability to just click a button. It's 2024, man. Like, you don't even know if we're really watching us right now. We could be AI. Technology is so advanced, you got to use it, dude.
AI wouldn't say that we're AI.
It doesn't talk about Fight Club.
Did you hear about the most recent? Did you hear about the most recent AI controversy?
No.
The recording of Joe Biden saying something about Trump that was not him. That circulated. Oh my god, dude!
Bro, it's going to be.
The other day.
I hope you guys are prepared for what a wild November.
I said to Victoria the other day, there used to be some kind of just like just truth in pictures and video, and now we don't even have that. So it's like
the 60-day sprint to this election is going to be bananas.
It's gonna be nuts.
Yikes!
You know what else needs to get nuts and better? Fine tune your value proposition.
100%.
Yeah. Because we're only on number 6, and
we gotta keep going.
The reality of this one is what you were telling people 2 years ago can no longer be what you're telling them, and I think at the core of this is what came home to roost more than anything we've been talking about for a while. If your value proposition is just financial to your clients, meaning in the form of a discount, or you're trying to justify your commission by saying you do X, Y, and Z, if you don't actually do it, this market is going to expose you.
Yeah.
If you don't really have good follow-up with your sellers, this market will expose you. If you're not out there really advocating for your buyers and trying to negotiate for them, it will expose you.
Yep.
The market during COVID allowed you to just be like, look, this is what we got to do. The market told you what to do. You actually have the ability to be a fiduciary at a high level right now.
And then practice. How many agents do we know that are just haters? They see other agents succeeding. They're like, I'm so smarter than that person. But like their listing presentation, they're not good at delivering it, right? You know, like your ability to sit there and have little pieces of expertise. Like, if you don't know the average amount of pictures that a buyer is going to look at of the exterior of a home before they move on online is 2, and you have to be in by the 3rd or they're going to move on 90% of the time, that's not actually portraying your value proposition, because that's something you can talk about to say, here's why these listings didn't sell and yours will. Like, be an expert and then work on the delivery.
And your value proposition is and I agree with this. So in this statement, it says, if you're touting things such as integrity, or passion, or passionate, excellence, trust,
you
or
might
service,
as well say you're a hard worker.
Then you're off base, right? That's not
that
your
should be assumed.
Yeah, that's not your value proposition. So, or if you're hyping up virtual tours or staging brochures, then again, you're missing the point, since these are fundamentals that are expected by every agent. Like, oh, I put a for sale sign in every yard.
Yeah,
right.
There's nothing that makes people less comfortable than you telling them you have integrity. I found.
You're like, no, or trust me.
Trust me.
I'm a trustworthy guy.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I hope so.
Yes. Yeah. Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Like, negative.
So really on that to, and this is hard, like as you sit down and kind of think about it, because to be effective, your value prop needs to be 100% about the client. And we always try to make it about ourselves. And as you're going through it, you're hearing like, what is my value prop? I'm brand new. If I'm brand new, what is my value proposition?
Yeah.
Right. Again, that's not about you then.
Yeah.
So the good news, if you're brand new or if you're 100 years in this business, it should be about the client.
Yes.
Yep. So, you focus on their needs, be clear and specific, emphasize the benefits. You're going to how you help alleviate the risk. Those are the 4 ways to kind of help break down and fine tune your value proposition. And then number 7 is, and this is something Kelderman did at a very high level.
Yeah. Develop
a referral network, right? Because a significant percent of our transactions come from agent referrals across the country. So if you're part of a national brokerage, this is one of the reasons why I do say it's important to be with a larger brokerage rather than a small one.
Yeah.
Because when I was with Keller Williams, we got a lot of that. When I left, that started to dry up. EXP has 90,000 agents. Guess what? Our agent referrals are up. We don't truly get a lot of agent referrals from other brokerages anymore, because we're starting to see the agents really keep it within that, kind of in that brokerage to brokerage referral network.
I think the two things I learned over time focusing on agent referrals was make sure that you're living in an area where people are coming to, right? One of the hardest things when trying to develop even a referral network with other agents for it to be productive and for you guys to go out there and almost lead generate referrals, because that's how this thing gets at a higher level, right?
It is lead generation. Yeah.
You also have to have buy-in from everybody. And if I live in somewhere in the middle of nowhere,
North Dakota,
right? And there's not a lot coming my way, it's hard for me to stay engaged in that game. So first off, make sure that they come into you, but also recognize when Brian talked about those 3 lead generation sources, agent referrals are another lead generation source. You are going to have to get your name out there. Like everything, it gets a little bit easier as people know about you. Some people recommend you, some deals fall in your lap that weren't there on Tuesday, they end up there on Wednesday. Right? But understand it's not just taking your cards and handing them out to other agents at events. There is actual the people who do it at a high level. It is a whole other lead source.
Social media makes that easier.
Social media makes it easier. And just remember, coming from contribution is always the best way to give it. So could you start a real estate mastermind for other agents in your referral network where you meet? It's we live in a digital world. So think about not just how you can meet people,
or what P&L for a real estate agent webinar.
Yeah. What do you do well? And how can you bring that to other people? So whatever it is, just remember that it's more than just meeting people. Think about how you can bring them value consistently. Do that, and then your referrals will start coming in.
Yep. Number 8, develop effective allied resource partners. These include title companies like
always been terrible at this.
Heather and Lawyers Title, attorneys, Brandy Dosser, like Matt Aycock, tradesperson, lenders, Mortgage Mike, your awesome home warranty person.
I have such limiting belief around this and I will own this because I think that's what a lot of agents do. And I think I've as being a part of really good teams, I've seen how team leaders do this effectively. As an individual agent, I was always these people deal with real estate agents all day long. They have so many of them. What are the chances of me becoming their person? That was my reason to not ever ask them for business, right? Where the allied referral, really the vendor sources come in is when you're doing events, when you're trying to do things to generate more people. That's where you can leverage those relationships with people because I feel like as agents, we are the key holder to the relationship most of the time.
Sure.
Most of these conversations start with us unless you got a really great lender.
And look, those vendors have to be careful.
Absolutely.
I will say, I've seen vendors that do business with agents and they lost other business from some of their key.
I always think it's crazy when a vendor announces what agent helped them buy a house. I was bro, I'm cool with it, but you should shut up.
Yeah. You're not going to get, usually you're not. So you don't expect to get a lot of direct referrals, but the events thing is really, really important, right? Those people, they have networks too. They want to grow their brand and their business. How can you collaborate?
Yeah.
How can you collaborate and expand your community, extend your reach?
Absolutely. Number 9 is get accountable, right? So Gary Keller famously stated, accountability is the breakfast of champions. So regular check-ins with a supervisor, coach, or mentor will help you stay on track and provide the encouragement needed to keep you inspired and moving forward.
I know Brad Inman didn't write this article because he quoted Gary.
He did not.
Secondly, I want to change this to allow accountability. Get accountable is such crap. If you're not going to allow yourself to be accountable to people, meaning you show up, allow them to tell you negative things. If you're getting defensive about everything, stop showing up to accountability calls. That is why accountability breaks down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting accountable. It's allowing someone to hold you accountable. But accountability sounds sexy.
But no one can hold you accountable, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right. So you're right. So that's always been the when I was coaching agents and why I actually hated it. Why I hated getting on my coaching calls because it was the same thing every week. It was the same excuses. It almost became so predictable. I could script it out.
Yeah.
Just like on an expired call or cancel call, I could get that. It was the same objections, just like on the Monday coaching calls I would do. They're like, why didn't you do last week what you said you were going to do last week? Well, life got in the way, or I started to do this, or I'm trying to remember now. It's usually life got in the way. I had to, I had to go to the grocery store. And then what I realized is I saw this dog on the side of the road and I had to take it to the vet and I had to stay there the whole time because I couldn't just leave it.
But there's usually a sprinkle in there of positive excuse making is what I call it. But what I did do is I did get organized around these two things.
Yes.
Right? I tagged the people in my database you told me to tag. So next week I'll definitely call them.
Yeah.
There's some of that.
And
this is like,
and here's the trick in real estate. If you guys want some behind the scenes look into this, here's the reality. Anybody who is holding you accountable based off a percentage of your income is going to get really tired of holding you accountable really quickly. And anybody you're paying a monthly service fee to hold you accountable and you're not doing it is just there because you're paying them monthly service fee.
100%.
At the end of the day, you not allowing yourself to be held accountable and doing the work is just costing you money and time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing to say on this one to wrap it is like, this is the one thing on the list that you can't hide from and you can't mess up.
Yep.
Like the reality is we actually know agents that don't use CRMs. We know agents that have done no referral deals. We probably know agents that are wildly successful because they just have some sort of inherent talent and craziness in them that makes them successful, that have probably done all 8 of the other things on this list wrong. The being accountable is like, unfortunately, that's just one you're going to find out if you're not. So you can't really skip that one.
Yep. Number 10. Team up,
Mm.
right? 2024 may be the year you decide to get a partner or join your solo agent running out of resources. And, I will say that, as a team leader, we're seeing this more and more. We're seeing this with large agents that were solo that were doing massive businesses. We're seeing that from agents that, they tried it and the team environment for the majority of people. I'll say there's some it's not made for them.
Sure.
Right. But for the majority of people, they thrive in a team environment. They need to only focus on a few things and not everything. And that's okay. Right. That's, it's all about, again, you want to talk about accountability. Your checkbook, your bank account should be the thing that holds you accountable.
When it comes to figuring out the business, I am fine with being Scottie Pippen and not being Michael Jordan. You know what I mean?
He's still got 5 rings.
Stop trying to be Michael Jordan with everything, right? There are certain aspects of your business you can leverage off to somebody else. I'm about to finish my 11th year. 6 of those have been spent on a team. Every single one of those years have been the least stressful years in real estate. Every single one of those years has been the most personally profitable years I've had in real estate over the years that weren't on a team. And this isn't about like joining a team. Maybe you just need somebody that you partner with and go build your own thing. I don't know what team up looks like for you.
Sure.
But the reality is being isolated in a difficult environment is not fun at all. And there are lots of people out there who are capable and would probably love to have a partner as well.
Yeah. And then we all can concur, not just because we run, teams. As a producing agent, I always made more on a team. And even just to challenge that analogy a little bit, like you can be Michael Jordan. Even Michael Jordan wasn't also Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
And Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman and the guy who cleaned the freaking arena after the game was over.
That's good.
Right. Like, so you manage, like, do the things that you do well.
Usually-
and you'll always make more.
Usually ego gets in the way that holds us back from looking at any of this.
Getting in real estate, nobody left the job they had to get into real estate to be like, I need another boss.
Yeah.
Right. Like everybody. And that's how people look at teams. They look at it as going back to what they used to have.
And they look
sucks.
at, and that's why I
because
think
it's not that.
the negative mindset or the splits. And I was talking with somebody yesterday, and I told him, it was Sarah, Sarah brought this up. Is like, a mentor told her that one time that you can, when you're looking at the splits of anything, whether it's a brokerage or a team, you're like, poor people focus on splits. You know what business owners focus on? The bottom line, the net, and the dollar per hour return. And I was like, dang, that's right.
True.
Because I'll be like, honestly, I own and run a team, but I'm part of Place, and I'm on the same splits as all my other agents.
Yep.
And I'm selling a deal or two a month. Guess what? Even at that split level, it's still freakingly amazing money.
Yeah.
And it's highly profitable for me.
It's highly leveraged.
And highly leveraged. That's why it's highly profitable for me.
Exactly.
Right? I'm selling something right now that, my dollar per hour is very high.
Exactly.
That's what we've said that so many times in the show and in classes we've taught. Time is really what you're selling. We are time consultants at the end of the day. We're knowledge consultants at the end of the day. We look at the time we drive between houses, which is why that's not a dollar producing activity, and a showing assistant can do it. We look at all these things and we assign that time to our value. And at the end of the day, if you give me a whole bunch of deals at less than the industry percentage from a commission time percentage, but you tell me I've only got to work an hour on each one of them, and my dollar per hour is twice what it would be on these other ones, I will take those lower commission deals all day long.
Every single time.
All day long. Right? Because time is what's valuable, I think, especially as you age. Time becomes so much more valuable.
Yep.
Dude.
And
Agree.
we're out of time.
We are out of time. Hey, Chris
Hey.
Smallhorn, we made it over an hour.
Yay!
It's like 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
I know.
I know.
Look, when we get more dialed in on this and we have top 10 lists, and
I think we could have went another 30 minutes with this, honestly.
I think
You know
we
what I mean?
compressed some of the stuff.
Yeah.
we had to. Like, we were running out of time, and look, it's Aspen's second birthday, so I got to get out of
I
here.
feel that.
Yeah.
I
So,
know.
but it's not Mortgage Mike's second birthday.
No, he's 207 years old.
Yeah. That's because in finance
You
years,
see it on his face.
Yeah, finance years.
He's very
All
old.
the
He's like
bitterness
Gandalf.
and stress.
Yeah, mmgloans.com. Just send out your loans and at bats and approvals and buyers and yourself over to Mortgage Mike, mmgloans.com. In fact, you hit him up. He talked to me last night on Call of Duty about something. He's like, you asked about something getting on some loan.
Oh, yeah. I gotta hit him up. I did
Yeah.
hit him up.
Yeah,
What was I asking about?
I don't-
Financing on something.
yeah,
Can't
something. mmgloans.com. The Ron armadillo.1/tour TRE.
Ronnie.
Look at that. Let's pull that up real quick.
Can you put it up now?
I can't. It's all good. Way to go, Jesse.
Oh,
Ah.
where'd it go?
Oh
Yeah,
no.
maybe I'm not going to promote
Next week.
tourstudios.com and Jesse Showalter at the moment.
Custodian
Uh,
dicks.
Yeah.
We'll get it next
Yeah.
week.
We'll show you this cute little armadillo. Who
Yeah, I don't know why.
looks
it's
like
not
he's
doing that.
firing.
Actually,
Like,
don't understand why
looks
it's
like
not
he's going to
working. Me neither.
war.
I know.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, don't go to war. Go to homewardfw.com, the home of
gonna
Homeward
make
Property
this work.
Management, and Dana Wynn and Duncan O'Donnell and all those amazing people over there crushing it for us for all your property management needs. And then if you want to find out the screen that we're not sharing right now, check out tourstudios.com and Jesse will show you all his backdoor secrets.
I don't know. That
That
sounds
was a
like an
weird
only.
one,
That
yeah.
only sounds like an
That sounds
OnlyFans.
That was a
Jeez.
Nick slip.
Opus is gonna
Nick
pull.
slip,
Opus is
yeah.
gonna pull that clip.
Yeah.
We're going to start calling him Nick slips.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
There we go. I like it. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Leave us a review, please.
yeah. If you found that part helpful at
Yeah.
all,
All right.
I had something earlier, but I forgot it. So
Yeah.
It's going to be
All right, Matt.
yeah, it was gonna be amazing, but
whatever.
I lost it a little bit.
Jesse.
Hold on.